So, hello everyone. Welcome to another Fireside Chat. This is Fireside Chat number 19, I believe. For those of you who are new, we normally just have regular conversations and we record them. Feel like it's helpful and it's a way to share and give back to the community as well. Today we have with us Steve and Sandra. Normally we also have Matt, but he couldn't make it today. So welcome, Steve. To I think this is your first
My
fireside
first.
chat, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's it. So if you're joining, you haven't seen this before. Check out some of the other topics that we've covered in the past. If you are not new and you have seen us before, remember to subscribe and like, etc. Thank you for the support. A lot of you have gotten in touch to suggesting topics and so on. Keep those coming. And today we picked a topic that I think is very relevant, which is that journey to master leadership to some extent, right? Like we go from being great software developers into sucking as managers, let's say, no, or making that jump in many aspects. And I feel like there's a lot of lessons that we learn over the over our time doing this. So we thought it was interesting to share some of those as well. So I don't know, guys. How did you start? Like, what was that first time when you thought, okay, I'm now leading people, no? Or you became kind of self-aware, no, that you were playing that role, no? So yeah, what was your experience with that?
I've been lying to myself for a long time. I took a long time to admit that. So like, no, I'm not a manager. I'm not a manager. No, no, la la la, not a manager, right? So it for me it took a long time to actually make peace with it. But as we have a new guest today, I'll probably like, and before I go, I would like to see from Steve, like how your transition, because I've seen your transition, right?
Yeah, it's your fault.
So.
My transition is your fault. It's funny that you say about you hung on to it for a long time. I'd been a manager for a software engineer for decades, right? A couple of decades. Been a manager for probably 3 years before I gave up my JetBrains license. And
That's the line. No, that's
yeah,
like this
This
is
is
yeah.
what
a
you
really
know.
good. Do you have a JetBrains
No,
license? No, I
And
don't
get
have a
life
JetBrains
changed.
license anymore.
I was paying for it every month, man. Every month I was paying my money, and it wasn't until kind of it was last summer, and I sat down and I realised that no one is ever going to pay me to write software ever again. So, it was a dark day, but I guess it was my opportunity came as Codurance grew, right? So I joined Codurance as a craftsperson originally, and I was out working with clients. And as Codurance grew, we realized that some people needed to be working across clients and just kind of making sure we have the right people with the right skills in the right place. That was really my job to start with. It was just that. And kind of meeting with the clients and making sure that the clients are really happy and the projects are running well. And I remember my very first day. So I'd finished at a client on a Friday. I was running a kind of big team at an important client on the Friday. Monday morning, I started this new job, and so I decided what I was going to do was going to go around and meet all the clients and meet the teams and just kind of just start doing that role. And like 11 o'clock in the morning, I was walking through central London with a takeaway coffee, just with 40 minutes spare, walking between two clients, and it felt so weird. Felt really, really strange because like for 15 years before that, or when I started, we didn't have Jira. Jira wasn't a thing when I started, right? But you can say for 15 years, I would go in the morning, pick up my ticket, knew exactly what needed to be done, and just focused on one thing, right? Just on delivering some software, and then Monday morning, no one was telling me what to do. I didn't have a goal, well, I had a goal, but I didn't have a set of tasks to be done, and that took me a long time to get used to.
Yeah, I think for me it was very similar as well because like I was a software engineer like for my entire career, and And then my last job was at UBS. And at UBS, I had been hired to do a specific job. I was still writing code at UBS, and happily, so I had like a lot of other responsibilities as well, global responsibilities and so on. But I was still part of a project. I was still writing code and looking after systems and stuff. So when we started Codurance, the transition was gradual, because I had to do business development, and that's where the problems started, because like I had absolutely no clue what to do, right? So I went from a job that I knew inside out, well, not one job, like for 20 years of different jobs where I knew exactly what had to be done, or I could always go and speak to someone when I was in doubt what needs to be done. I would just speak to someone, normally my boss, my manager and stuff, and say, hey, a bit lost in here, what needs to be done? Someone would make that decision, and bang, we will continue. To now you are on your own, you don't have a salary at the end of the month, and you say like, you wanted to grow a company, well, your problem now, do it. And I had absolutely no clue what to do. And then you start suffering for different things. One is the panic, like I don't know what to do. Now I'm completely in a different position where I'm trying to do a job that my salary depends on directly, that I don't know how to do. That I the skills that I acquired over those years not necessarily prepared me for that job. So so there was that imposter syndrome in a way, like, am I good enough to do this job? What do I do? How do I organize my time? So those was for me like the the main challenges. I was able to avoid that a bit. As soon as you got one of the clients, I jumped straight into the code. So one of our clients, I think when Steve joined, probably I was still writing code for one of our clients.
Mm-hmm.
It took more than a year for me to actually hire someone else that took my position in that client to continue developing, so that I could step out from the project. But like that transition was scary, and I was like, oh, look, should I do that? Or so how was it? How was it for you, Jose? Because you went from maybe similar, or
Uh, so the first time that I remember realizing, oh shit, right, was with Smoking Brains when we hire our first employee. That's when it became very real, because up to that point, we're all kind of freelancers. We were, like it's like we're still co-workers, right? Like nobody's leading anything. Nobody, it's like we're doing something that we like, and we're kind of like sharing how we go about this stuff and so on, right? And the minute that we hired someone, then it became very real, because and after that, as people jump also on the wagon, no? Because to some extent they do look up to you to decide where to go, no, so to speak. No, before you mentioned, oh, I could always go and talk to my manager. I could always no and find out. They're looking for clarity. People are looking for clarity, and it's a very different. They you may not know what that clarity. You may be looking for clarity yourself. You know what I mean? And that is an aspect of that. Oh shit, now people are depending on me to be able to provide that clarity. What if I'm making a mistake? What if I'm no? And you mentioned the lack of skills or preparation, or like in many cases there are things that, as you are growing in responsibility, you need to take on that are not fun to do, no, but still need to get done, right? And it falls on that area, no. So yeah, that's for me the main oh shit, like. And then you start thinking, okay, so now I need to really think about what it is that, like, what's the best way, and also how do you assess, like, this is not just a gut feeling, right? Like, it's not, what you do has an impact on the people. It always has, right? Like, it's not I'm not saying, but that's when you, at least for me, I became aware that of a lot of that impact, and began taking things, I would say, a bit more serious around that, right? I don't know.
Steve, like for you, for example, as you were transitioning, right? So what are the areas that you felt that, I don't know, you were a bit coming short, you know, or you said like, look, is this my job now? Is it, do I need to get involved with these? So did you have any areas that's like, shit, like this is what I need to deal with?
Yeah, I think for me it was you know, when you're a team lead on a software development team, right? There are some kind of HR issues that come up, but it's people taking holidays or off sick and that kind of stuff. But then when you become a manager, people come to you with real problems, like we had no HR department, right? We had no one to send them to, and it's so you find yourself kind of really making moral decisions as much as kind of like nothing written down. You kind of say, right, what is the right thing to do here? Because you can do it. We could do anything, right? You know, the company was growing. There wasn't a great deal of policies and procedures or anything like that. You find yourself, yeah, I guess, making moral judgments. What's the right thing to do here? How would I like to be treated? And yeah, that for me was a big eye opener.
Yeah, for me, like, no, go on, Jose. Ask.
No, the thing. So how well I like to be treated. That's also kind of like a double-edged sword, because you're, and this is also important. Like your context is no longer everyone else's context, right?
Yeah.
So then you have information that other people are not. So how you think you should be treated doesn't necessarily not represent how all people think they should be treated. And this is something that, again, at least I find myself a lot of the time struggling with. Like I feel like this is either just, or this is, but there are things that I'm taking into consideration that are not visible to everyone else, or things like this. So yeah, that's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't always share that information. It's not so bad when you can sit down with someone and reason with them about something, but you can't always share that information. And it's you're right, because it's not the right thing. Is not how I would like to be treated, or what's the fairest way to deal with this situation, knowing that I have responsibilities both to the person but also to the company and everybody and everything within it.
And this is for me, like, was not only was, but it still is a huge challenge, because a lot of the decisions that we make or we would like to make, they are based on our preferences, our experience, our background, or, as you said, like how we would like to be treated, or how we see the world. And as you are growing a company and you start dealing with many different people, you start seeing that people are significantly different. And at least from my perspective, I didn't know. Of course, it's a bit a cliche. Oh, everyone is different. Yeah, we know that. But I think it took me. I had to be running a company to understand how different. Because for me, like when we were in like when I was a technical person, even when I wrote my own book, like I had the employee's perspective. The book is heavily biased towards an employee perspective. There was a lot of things about your own attitude, your own professionalism, but was still skewed to the employee, right? So then when you are part of a group, you see like the group decided, okay, the company needs to provide us a career progression. The company needs to provide us the mechanism to learn. Or so you are always asking, like the group feels that, oh, the company is fair or the company is unfair or stuff like that. But you see the other people, the people that belong to your group, almost as if they were similar to you. You know that there are differences, you know that they have different preferences, but the differences that you see in your colleagues are not big enough, are still small, right? When you are on the other side of the table, then you really see the big differences in people. Because, for example, one thing that happened, when I sat on the other side of the table, is that what I notice is everything that is good is easily shared. So all the individual achievements, the group achievements, this is shared to everyone. But the individual screw-ups are never shared because you need to protect the culture, you need to protect the person, you need to protect the culture and the company legally as well. Which means that when the very small minority, they misbehave, none of the peers see that, but you as a manager see that. And you end up having to address certain behaviors and not punish, but like create policies that will impact a vast majority of people that normally behaves well, just to cater for a small minority. And I was naive enough to think that, as we did in the beginning of our company, that says like, you know what, I will treat exceptional cases as exceptional cases, I'll treat locally. But I will not punish the entire company or create the policies. This is good when you have 10. And 10% is one person. But when 10% is 10, 15 people, and some of the behaviors might imply might have legal implications, that's when you start saying, then you start understanding why companies create certain policies, why companies... So things that I criticized in the past, like 8 years ago, say why companies have these and why do we have their bureaucracy and stuff. And then you start understanding that a lot of those things were created as either a protection or even a reaction to misbehave, people misbehaving, and people that are your colleagues, and you as a colleague, you don't see them misbehaving.
Yeah, totally.
Or you think, sorry if I interrupt there, or they see someone else's responsibility to hold them accountable for the bad behavior. Which is another thing that I feel like us, like when you're stepping into a leadership role, and not only, by the way, I think it's important that we do the distinction here between leaders and managers or people who have a position of authority in the organization, because they're two very different things. No, usually, if you're a good manager, you should also be a leader, not just the manager aspect. No, but a lot of the times, going back to your point, Sandro, where you're seeing yourself as part of the group, a lot of the times the burden of dealing with somebody is pushed out, right? Like there's someone else, the manager or the guy with the responsibility or power,
the company,
exactly, or the company should, right?
Should.
And that's an aspect that I feel it's also a very different change when you think of yourself as a leader versus as just another person in the team, and that's it, right? Because you have agency and you are also responsible for upholding that. If you delegate that to manager or whatever, you're never going to be, you're not taking ownership for things, right? And that is a switch that once you step into one of those roles, you don't have the luxury of saying, this is not my problem. You know what I mean? It is my problem, but it's everyone else's problem as well, right? And I feel that's a very important distinction that you're doing there, right? This is why also you cannot hide or those differences or behaviors that maybe you're not aware of. Maybe you do see them, but you don't see them as something that you need to deal with, because while they do this thing, it's not going to affect me, right? So it's fine, right? I'll tolerate it. But tolerating is also a way of sending a message, that's okay, and so on, right? So
and it's often easier to tolerate, right? And I think that, Sandra, you also mentioned about the kind of policies and procedures. We didn't have any, right? I think we had one, which was how to claim expenses. That was it, and it wasn't really a policy. It was like a readme, right? But
how to,
yeah. But then what would happen is that people would start to get slightly different answers. So if they came and asked me about something, they would get a slightly different answer, and really because we were making it up on the spot. So I think that the policies actually came around from two aspects. One, we should kind of think in advance and agree about these things, but but secondly, it's about fairness, right? So that everybody gets treated the same. So that, you know, and I think that's where we approached it. Is you know, people will come to me and ask for one thing: is it okay to do this? And I'd say, yeah, it's fine. They go to Sandro, yeah, it's fine. Mash might say, yeah, it's fine. But they'd all get a slightly different version of fine, right? And that's unfairness. And I think a lot of that stuff early on was around fairness, and I didn't know what I was doing. So what I wanted to do is be able to kind of leave a situation with a clean conscience. I've done the best I can. I've fully considered it and tried to do the fairest thing for everyone. It's tough, man. And these things are very hard to Google.
No, I would say like for me, like dealing with people was a huge challenge as well, and still is, as I said, because like before, just because just people that are listening to us, because we have a lot of implied context in your head, but like maybe just give a few more concrete examples, so just to clarify the point. So, for example, you are a team lead, you are a team member, right? You're part of the team, and then let's say that the client came in and complained about one of your colleagues to your manager, to the company. The team doesn't know about that. The team might know that that person is just a bit quirky and stuff, and the team tolerates because they have a drink every Friday and stuff, and yeah, everyone is different and stuff, but maybe, like, for example, someone is really underperforming, but because it's your mate, you don't really like, yeah, the person is different or prefers to do other tasks, right? So that's how a colleague sees. Now, this person prefers to do other tasks. He doesn't do it very well with these. But like, for example, the client paying for that service, they sometimes said, look, you know what? I would not like to work with this person here anymore because of X, Y, and Z. As a colleague, you are completely unaware of this. So that complaint comes to the company, and then the company needs to address that person. That person might be doing something on purpose or completely unaware, but that needs to be addressed, and now you have a problem because that person cannot remain in that project, let's say. So then you need to address that person. But then that's where the problem is, because you need to protect the person as well, because like, assuming that that was not an intentional thing, assuming that the person is just like either not capable of doing the job, or I don't know, had an attitude, a problem that is solvable, let's say, in terms of improvements and stuff. So you need to protect the person. So you cannot expose the person, because that will what's the word in English? Like embarrass the person across the company. So then you need to address the person separately. And the person might go to another project or go and do something else. And then people say, hey, I want to do something else as well. Right? And so, yeah, but that person is not doing something else because this person is being promoted or being rewarded by anything. So then you start having problems like that. And then there are people that, for example, there is a group of people, but two of them don't get along at all. They're always locking horns. And then one of them comes to you and say, hey, this person is this. The other one says, this person is that. I don't want to work with this person. Or they feel that one has a bigger salary than the other and stuff, and they don't understand the value that they bring. So all of those things are things that before, as a team member, I didn't have access to those information. The only thing that I would be is like, if I was involved, I would be complaining to my manager, hey, I don't want to work with this person here. I think, but I was pushing the problems to someone else to resolve. But now the company needs to address those people. And for example, like, we had to let some people go, right? So over our history, at some point in time, we had to let some people go. And in order to let them go, we had to deal with those kind of people for a long time and give them chances and move them to projects and address them and having different conversations and changing them from an environment and so on and so forth. But all of that stuff is not visible to anyone in the company. So they see that this person is moving projects or doing other things, but they don't understand the reason and we cannot tell that reason.
No.
And then when that we finally need to let the person go, then the friends of that person, they think that the company is unfair.
But okay, so now that you're saying all this, I have a different point of view with some of these things, and it's something that um, I've learned to tune, yeah, to let's say the audience or the group, but it's something that at the beginning of me joining, for instance, here in Codurance, I I definitely did not manage it like that because that's not the way that I see it. You know, the way that I see it is if there is something that is not working as a team, we need to solve it. It's everyone's problem. It's not just my problem. It's not just that person's problem. No, and if people don't know that there is a problem, it's not going to get solved or it's not going to get the support that it requires and so on, right? So for instance, and this happened when with one of the first projects that I got involved with, no, someone comes and says, hey, you know, we want this person out of the project XYZ, without going into too much detail, right? We had a meeting with the whole team. We explained what the concerns the client had were and what are some of the things. This is also not the first time, and all of that was explained in the open. Therefore, they're asking, you know, for this person to be removed from the project, and we're going to comply. Yeah. So from X time, this is it. For me, that's not a bad way of dealing with that. However, I got feedback from that because I also always ask for feedback, right? So no, you shouldn't have dealt with that incident. Okay, so how should I have dealt with it? No, you should have called the person individually and then, you know, explain the situation to them and then maybe communicate that, oh, we're moving into another project. That's precisely the problem. So if I do that, nobody learns from this. Nobody. So there's so many opportunities there to learn as a team that are just wasted. That I just removed completely.
Sure,
In fact, what I did was to make that my responsibility alone. Yeah, like help you shift the burden, right? Help you keep you in the dark about, you know, all of these things. Now you
but
can't always
depending,
do that, by the
yeah,
way.
because depending on the problem, exactly, you'll be
Exactly,
exposing the
exactly. It's a,
person too much, or other people that have
but
been
you can tune
involved.
it. But you can tune it. You
Yeah,
can tune it, and this is I think an important aspect as well of, you know, leadership versus manager, and you know, being a leader versus being a manager, and how leadership shapes the culture of the organization and the culture of a team and so on, right? So one of the ways in which, you know, you shape as the culture as a leader is people look up to you. They identify with you. How you behave, yeah, is sending a message, right? It's one of the ways. No, there's also other factors like socialization and so
yeah.
on. But basically, let's say if there is a, you know, if I make a mistake and put something in production and then suddenly everything burns and crashes, no, and then right, if I, as a leader, as a manager, position of authority, whatever, I go and scream at the person, and you know, and then yeah, you're, you know, stupid, blah blah, right? Or, you know, you're fired, right? I am sending a message. What kind of message am
Never. The
I?
message is like never put a system in production again.
Yeah,
No,
it's
so
true.
it's like
Yeah,
here, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you don't make mistakes. If you make
Yeah.
mistakes, heads roll, right? It's okay for me to scream at you because, you know, because you made a mistake or because I'm your boss or like all of those messages I'm sending, and I wasn't intending to send those messages. You know, if you ask someone like, do you want people to cut all initiative? No, like do you want them to like freeze and be scared not to do it? No, of course not. People want, you know, I want them to do the job. I want to, yeah, but this is exactly, you know,
Yeah.
the opposite. What
Mhm.
you're,
Yeah,
where you
yeah,
the
but I
opposite.
think that I was saying. I think that I was not like just describing the how we end up solving some of those issues. The point that I was making is I was not prepared to deal with that. I came in from a software engineer background, and all of a sudden we have a company that was two working from Starbucks, and then we were 10, and then we were 20, and then we are 50, and then we are 100, and we have and two countries, and all of a sudden, like the same person that came from that uh, engineering background that was very comfortable after 20 years or 15 years or whatever that was, building a career path, where as you go one step upwards, you become stronger. You don't become weaker, you become stronger. So every new step is just solidifying even more the knowledge that you have, to all of a sudden you go to another place where you need to deal with problems that you never had to deal before. And then all the mistakes that we made as engineers, writing the wrong test, writing the wrong code, or screwing up the database or whatever, now you are doing with your people, with your team, with your projects, with your clients, with loss, with contracts, with pricing. So I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. It's not how we solve, but like is that transitioning to start dealing with those problems. How do we even learn to do what you said, Jose? Because, for example, in order for us to, at least for me, I will speak for myself, but to be comfortable dealing with the situation, I had to deal with them multiple times. So now I'm a bit more comfortable to letting people go or solving people conflict or a conflict with a client. But I believe that in order to be comfortable with that kind of situation, in the past 8 years, I made a lot of mistakes and made a lot of people unhappy and clients unhappy. And that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but it's such a different job, right? I spoke to you the other day, and I said it's been a career change. It's like a completely different job. All of a sudden, the completely different job. It's handy that I understand the job that the people that kind of work for us do, but I don't do that job anymore. And you think, well, what was I like 1 or 2 years into my software development career? I made mistakes every day, like, and I wasn't given the responsibility to do things right. It needed to be checked off by people. It needed to go through the team lead, right? And I was, but that was expected because I was a junior, right? It was, of course, you're going to make mistakes. You're a junior, but when you become a leader, when you become a manager, and you come after a 20-year career, become a manager, no one gives you the leeway for those mistakes. We did internally, but all those people that you are now leading or managing, there's no leeway.
Mistakes are more costly as well as that level. So making those mistakes, it has a lot more impact in all around, in people, in money, and etc. So yeah, it's like people are looking at you. They are looking at you. So there are certain things like you cannot have an outburst of an emotional outburst and just blurb the first thing that comes to your mind. That's not you need the certain area.
Although we sometimes do, but we shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. This is the thing. These are areas that are really hard to develop and get to that level where you can sort of do an okay job with, right? Like we're talking about emotional control, right? If we're talking about empathy, we're talking like if you're not. For me, this has been an hours. Like empathy is if you talk to my partner, she can tell you a bit about that. No, but I studied computer science because I didn't want to have to deal with people. You tell the computer what to do. If it's wrong, it's your fault, right? So that's it, and it's very clear. And then you realize that writing software is not. It is a communication problem, and it is a people problem, right? At many levels, so that aspect is something that I learned the hard way, and that part, at least that impact that you have in others, and how to approach things with with empathy and being it is something that, if you look at the example that I gave before, right? Like, hey, there's this complaint because of this situation, and you're discussing this in public. You cannot do that without empathy. Like you're not doing that to crush the person and to make an example. That's a different message as well. No, you know what I mean? That's a different thing that you're doing there. You're doing it again because it's a learning opportunity. It's kind of happened. Everyone needs to benefit from this and so on. But in order to do that, you need to have that empathy, right?
Yeah, but it is very difficult because, like, the demand that for example, one thing that I find it very difficult for me is like people have needs, and as we were saying, like different people have different needs. So you cannot come up with a solution for one person and think that you solve the problem. But for example, people say like, I want career progression. I don't know how to create a career progression, because I had my career progression and you guys had your career progression. Our careers were different. We are like, we crossed path and we are together now, but we got to where we are from completely different ways, which means that the career progression that we chose was different. So when people say, oh, we want career progression, then all of a sudden there are loads of people with completely different ambitions, right? Completely different needs, and say, hey, you company needs to create, and they throw that at your lap and say, hey, solve that for us. And this is another thing that took me a long time to get used to. Like, you know me well, like I'm very confident in general. At least that's what people see, but internally I have my own demons and issues. But like the one thing that took me a long time to get used to is that people think that once you transition, right, as Steve was saying, like on Friday he was working for the client writing code, and then on Monday he was visiting clients because he had changed the position inside Codurance. All of a sudden, people think that you have all the answers in the world. And not only the answers, you have the perfect answers, the answer that will satisfy everyone. Because if someone is unhappy, the company is not doing well. And then you need to deal with career progression, you need to deal with policies for whatever, and benefits, and you need to deal with accountants and lawyers. And then the marketing say, hey, we need a strategy for that. And the sales said, hey, I need a strategy for that. And your directors of these, they want a strategy for that. And everyone is saying, hey, where is the strategy? Where is the strategy? Where is the goal? Where is the plan? And it's like, I don't fucking know.
And you're thinking, right? What's the strategy?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And so people look at you as if you were now, like from Friday to Monday, you became like a specialist in everything that happens in the company. And that is not easy to cope with, like it's difficult. It's not an easy transition mentally, like it's taxing. I don't know. What do you guys think?
It's very difficult it's very difficult as well to prioritize those things, right? Very difficult, and I think like all those things are coming at you, and yes, they all need to be done, and you might understand what needs to be done, not how to do it, but you understand what the goal of these things is. That they all seem very important. Which one do I prioritize? Which one do I do first? Because I think like as a software engineer, that was somebody else's problem too. I never had to prioritize anything. that's what product management was for, right? That's what we so it's to a certain extent. That's not completely true, but it's and of course that's very difficult to explain to people as well, because a lot of the things that people come to you with, they're very emotionally attached to, and so you need to say to someone now, oh well, I haven't dealt with your very important problem because I felt that somebody else's very important problem was more important, right? And it's and they're not necessarily business things, right? They can be personal things too. It's very difficult. We've been a bit not doom and gloom, but we've pointed out a lot of problems here. But do you regret it?
No, nothing.
No, regret is a quite a strong word for because it's not a.
Would
you choose it again? That's probably a better way of saying it. Would you, knowing what you know now, would you choose it? Would you choose it again?
Yes. I would choose it again. Of course, that knowing what I know now, I would have avoided a lot of things. I would do again.
Better. Yeah, I will probably prepare better, but that's not. I wouldn't say it's it's something to regret. On the contrary, I feel like it gives you a completely different perspective on how to deal with the world in general, right? Again, going back to that thing about agency, and you can affect the result of things, and that's something that will help you anywhere, whether you're leading a company or you're leading a team or you're just trying to do your job the best you can. So I don't regret it at all. There are certain things that, going back to the previous topic around learning it and making the mistakes and so on, like I've always felt like you can learn from others. Like people will tell you when you're not doing it right. So I tend to, ask for a lot of feedback and so on. Like that's not it is something that I kind of, I've gotten to a point that it's kind of automatic, and I'm able to filter. Okay, so they didn't like this, like, and I dig is I don't keep, the top layer of, oh, I'm not looking for pats on the back and stuff like that, right? Like I'm actually like, okay, so what would you improve? Like what is the, and some of the people in the team would tell you, right? Like, hey, good, no, this, no, and that's, I feel something that has helped me improve. There's still a long way to go, no, but it's helped me improve and tune, you know those areas more than if I just go around doing it and then at some point realizing that it's not working out. And so for me, that has been something that has accelerated that process, and as well as making or helping people to understand that they are also part of that project. That if of that process, no, that if they don't tell me what is wrong, I'm not going to be able to change it, no, and I want to do a good job as well, right? So that's one. But then there's the other side, which is if you're always asking for feedback, yeah, you really need to be careful. You can't just listen to every feedback. This is another aspect of that. No, this is something that I also learned relatively soon, no, which is, make a list. These are the people that I'm going to, let's say, care the most, right? Like, it's not like you will listen to people and but you can't listen to everyone's opinion. You can take everyone's opinion at the same level, with the same level of priority, let's say, no.
And for different subjects as well, right?
Exactly. So what I do is, I'm trying to do my job, like I'm listening, etc., etc. If at some point I feel like there's something that is coming up a lot, no, so then if I'm not too sure still, I would find people on that list and go and, hey, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts on this area? And then you listen, and they may tell you something you don't want to hear, because this is part of the curating your list, right? Like some people would just tell you, yeah, great, because they, for whatever reason, there is the position of authority or whatever, and they don't want to, or they don't want any kind of conflict, or they don't feel comfortable telling you or whatever, right? But these people on your list, they should be able to tell you those things. Otherwise, why do you have them there? No.
But in
That's
order for that to happen, you need to establish, because as you said, like one thing that also it took me a while to understand, as I was, well, as the company was growing and my position was evolving as well, because as I said, we started Codurance, but I didn't start with a company of 100 of the size we are now. We started with 2, right? So for a long time, and Steve probably remembers that, like, at least in my head, I was a team member. I was a team member with everyone. I was
You all
sitting
had the
with
same job title.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We had all the same job titles. It was the same for everyone. So, but then I realized that, for example, in order to have what you were saying, Jose, I had to build a personal relationship. It cannot be a work relationship. Just a work relationship would not allow people to be honest to you, because, for example, as the company grew, for example, for the new people as they join, they will never have the same degree of intimacy that I have with Steve, for example, that have been with us from the beginning, or even with yourself, that we've been friends before Codurance. So and this took me a while to understand, because I realized that, for example, there were quite a few times where I asked for feedback and I got feedback, but then the actual behavior of that group of people or person or project indicated a very different thing from the feedback that I received. The feedback was, no, I think it's fine, and it's fine and fine. And all of a sudden it was not. And then decide, like, okay, is it something like in my personality that people are struggling to they don't feel comfortable, or it's just the position itself? Regardless of what you do, you still have
there's
that.
a bubble. No, you because you have authority, you kind of live in a bubble that is quite difficult to pierce. No,
Mm-hmm.
and in that sense, yeah, I agree. Like the reality distortion field, no, kind
Yeah,
of.
I think it's a trust thing, right? It's and I think you hit the nail on the head there, Sandro. Right? It's they need to be able to know you well enough to be able to trust your reaction to the feedback that they're going to give.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have had these conversations. You need to have just had a chat for no reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of got to know people, and that's really important because they, if someone's going to give you any kind of useful feedback, by which I mean something for you to work on, something to improve, they need to be able to trust. They need to know your personality well enough to be able to trust that the reaction they get is not going to just
Exactly.
explode.
Yeah. One thing that is slightly different, because we've been talking about people, but like, how do you guys feel about decision making? Because for me, decision making was also quite complicated, because you start making decisions that will impact people.
Mm-hmm.
Or the financials of your company or whatever, right? And you realize that, like, after so many years doing this job, I now have a far more empathy, as we were talking about, to managers and even politicians in a way, because you know that whatever no, I'll tell you why. I'll explain to you why. Like, I certainly don't want any political debate. I was just saying, like, the challenges of making decisions, knowing that you are not going to satisfy everyone, that whatever you do, whatever the decision you make, even when you are trying to say, look, I'm trying to cater for the needs of the vast majority of people, you will still find some resistance that might be vocal, even when they represent a minority.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very difficult, making decisions that that you need to prioritize, or you need to decide where you are going to try to minimize the damage. Because some decisions are complicated. You will shake the foundations of a client or a company or a structure.
The best work, picking among the best worst decisions. There's no
Yes.
good one, right? You're just trying to
Yeah.
get the best of the crap that you haven't.
Yeah, and not always you can. Of course, like when you are in a small company, it's much easier for you to share far more, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
have a personal connection. It's easier for you to sit down. You have more time to address individuals, not only a whole group of people. No, you can address individually. Like, okay, we need to do this. This person here will need a special attention or whatever. I will sit down with this person, more details, or I will open more. As the size changes, you don't have the luxury anymore, and you need to make one decision after another. This is just absolutely non-stop. It's one topic after another, topics that quite often you are not prepared to make those decisions. You don't have all the information. You need to rely on whatever information you can get, and you need to move. And you know that that people will, and they will be complaining. It's like, like the companies this, the companies that, and this is, again, it's been 8 years now, but like, this decision making and the impact of decisions was something that was very taxing to me as well. I don't know about you guys.
I think decision making, I probably found it a bit too easy to start with. I can make decisions. I've always been comfortable just to make decisions, and be more than that, I've always been comfortable to roll back from my decisions. I've always been someone who can just say, do you know what, I messed that up. Right, we're going to do this instead. So that was okay early on, and I think it was okay early on because I knew everybody. I knew their dog's name. I knew everything about them. We worked together. We pair program together. As the companies become big, and so the trust is there, right? So everybody trusts that I did the best I could at the time, and they trust me to be able to hold my hands up and admit a mistake and try a different path. Now that's much more difficult as we've got bigger, much more, and even more so in the last 18 months because half the people that work for me I've never met. Apart from in meetings, right? And the whole Zoom thing, I don't want to go on about COVID and stuff, but the whole Zoom thing's made the trust thing even harder because the relationships are very hard to build because you can't bump into somebody in the kitchen and have a chat, or did you see the thing last night, or did you so that's very difficult. I think we've tried different things, right? So we've tried the one thing that's probably the most successful is that kind of although it doesn't help with fast decision making, is that kind of consultative approach. So kind of making the decision and then kind of communicating that intention to enact that decision before you enact it, and saying, right, anyone spot any problems with this? It does. So it's much better to do that than just start with an empty whiteboard and the problem, because you'll never get anywhere. You'll get a committee which will never decide on anything. But it doesn't help with fast decision making, and sometimes those things need to be fast, right? There's a demand of some kind, and that's really difficult.
Yeah, I think that all of those processes have their, they have their pros and cons. No, I would even call it leadership styles, no, to some extent, and the whole point is you need to be able to assess what's going to fit better, and what, like for instance, things where a lot of people are going to be impacted and so on. Some of those decisions are better having let's call it democratic approach, or more of a consultative approach and so on, right? Others are decisions that need to be taken immediately. There's no time, so you just make the decision, and you make the best decision you can with the information you can, and then you learn from it. That's and try to do better next time, basically, right? And so on. There are many different ways in that sense of doing that. What I've seen though in the past is over reliance on one of those styles, and that's not very good. In general, it tends to have a negative impact on the people that you're working with, and you're trying to lead, and you're trying to help. No, whether that is because you're trying not to make the decision. It's a very big responsibility. You need to assume that the heavy lays the crown kind of thing. No, it's like it's your decision that you need to make. It's not. You don't try to pass this decision to everyone else. Yeah, because it's a screwed up decision, and you need to. It is what it is, right? So you need to be very aware whether it is you're using the right, let's say, framework to do that, and at the same time, why are you? Like what's you may not realize that you're doing it in a way, but it may be a scapegoat to just feeling better about the decision to some extent, right?
Yeah, I feel that, like for example, if you want to lead, you cannot be afraid of conflicts. You cannot be afraid of the fallout of your decisions, right? Because as we were saying, the decisions will have an impact, and as the company, like the company or department or whatever, like you are managing or leading, is becoming bigger. Whatever decision that you make that will change the structure will have implications. Some people will be unhappy and stuff, and we cannot avoid that. Like a leader needs to confront. The way that you deal with those adversities is also tells a lot about what kind of leader you are. But you need to confront them. You cannot avoid conflicts. You cannot be leading trying to go around
please everyone, please everyone, or try not to or delay making decisions just because.
Exactly. No? This will be
until things get solved by themselves. No, it's like yeah.
But knowing that conflict is potentially, it doesn't always come, does it? Right? And when we say conflict, let's not pretend it's not fist fights, right? It's people questioning your decision, right? But knowing that potentially comes or is coming can really help you with your decision making. Because if you're sat there and say, right, well, I've made this decision, am I prepared to justify it? Right? If someone comes and questions the decision, am I prepared to justify it? And that helps you to make those right decisions, right? So and really consider those other sides as well, right? And
did I do my due diligence? No, making this decision is what you're trying to say. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it, whichever way. Like this could be also a way of covering your ass, so to speak. No, but again, it's not
necessarily, but maybe like doing, because as we do that more often. For example, like as we are making those mistakes, because we are making those decisions and we are learning from them, because every decision will have an impact. So then you are accumulating experience in those impacts. Okay, I've done that before. This is the kind of problem that I had. I've done that. Blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you are adjusting the same way that you grow as a technical professional. You start adjusting the leadership style as well. So, look, I cannot just do a top-down decision, or I cannot do on the other extreme, as Steve was mentioning. Yeah, we could do decision by committee when we were 10. You cannot do decision by committee with 120. So, but there are many things in between. For example, one thing that I learned, there are certain words that they have bad connotation, but lobbying, for example, right? So that people go and speak to others and stuff. So, for example, depending on which decision that you need to make, you as a leader, as a manager, you know the risks of that decision. You know what, I think that those kind of things would be an issue. Let me speak to those people, or that group of people, or that people in charge of that area. Let me hear from them. So instead of bringing everyone into the meeting, you measure the risk and you try to address them before. And you do some homework, you do some lobbying in terms of, hey, we are planning to do that. So with a few people or a few groups of people, we will go in depth before you announce.
I think it's more consulting than lobbying, doesn't it? Because lobbying says
lobbying has a bad connotation. Yeah.
But it's if you think about the RACI matrix, right? That real basic RACI matrix thing, like, well, I'm responsible and accountable for this thing. Who should be consulted, right? It's like who would who might have some input into this, or who would be affected by this.
But see how complicated, because, like, for example, you mentioned RACI matrix. I had no clue what that was when I was just on my engineering path.
Yeah, totally.
Right, so there is a skew in there,
and there's all these things we pick up, right? There's always things. Oh yeah, we should do this, because like everything's new. It's like a fire hose of new stuff. Oh, RACI matrix and Ansoff grid, and we should do it. And then you try. No, that's no good, and that's no good. You just throw them all out.
Orderly maps, and so you learn. It's like design patterns. I learned design patterns. Let's use design. I learned microservices. Let's put microservices, and then you start doing that with the management techniques, right?
Yeah, it's exactly like design patterns, right? When you first learn them, you're dead proud that you've got a solution that uses them all.
Yeah, these nailed it. All of a sudden, you're getting a full process.
Talking about tools, I think because we've been talking about the challenges and what people call the solitude of leading, to some extent, because there are some of the things that you can't really talk about, or there's only certain people that you can talk to about, and I think one of those things that we haven't discussed so far is how you deal with pressure and stress, and just the way that you look at things, and to some extent how you can become a bit jaded, with people in general when you're constantly seeing certain behaviors that are maybe not in line, or you feel like are not fair or whatever, right? And that for me has been another kind of change. Now, if we're talking about tools, it's not so much like a methodological kind of thing, but I feel like having a more stoic approach, or more philosophically speaking, more stoic approach, or more Zen approach has helped me a lot in dealing with things personally, which is something that people don't usually talk about, but there is a lot of pressure, there is a lot of sometimes guilt even, right? And that's not good, man. Like if you're not okay, there's no way that you're gonna be able to help other people, right? And there's no way that you're gonna be able to lead properly as well, and I feel like that's also, there's been a couple of moments in that path. I mentioned first employee. Another one was we did a summit, and people who I thought were shared the vision or whatever, they explain that they didn't see themselves as part of that vision. They were just, I'm here because this is a job, or I'm here because, which is okay as well. But then,
Yeah.
you have this, oh shit, like what is this? No.
And now it's all on you.
Yeah, and then this other path where, like at some point, I remember, previous company and so on, like, um it was taking a toll on me personally, right? And then you start realizing you need to start looking at things very differently, right? Like this is a long-term thing. This is a marathon. You can be so emotionally invested with every single thing, yeah, because it ends up, hurting you, and creating, you care, but because you care, you shouldn't care so much. You know what I mean? Like it will allow you to take a step back, be a bit more objective about things, seeing it not as one instance of something. Before I mentioned something around, you know, doing better next time. No, it is what it is. No, it's like you're gonna make mistakes. How empathetic you are with yourself as well is very important, right? Like you give yourself a break. Yeah, give yourself a break, learn from the experience, do better next time, and and learn to also move on some of the bad decisions that you will make, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that approach, I feel it was like another level. No, when you when you get there, you realize, oh shit, like I need to. It's for me, it was another stepping stone. What do you think?
Talking of another level is learning what's okay to drop, just what's not important, and what can I delegate. That was a real tough thing. That was a real tough thing to as we grew again, and I kind of now there's managers working under me, right? And to effectively delegate those things, not just abdicate it and just chuck it at them, but it's that fine line between micromanaging on one end and like just setting them tasks, and completely abdicating all responsibility on the other end. Is that kind of that line in the middle of kind of well, I'm not even sure I've got it right now, but
The
you know that
delegation
that's fine.
spectrum, the delegation
Yeah,
spectrum, right? Like there is not
yeah,
one or zero. I think we've talked about this.
We had a full fireside chat on delegation, which was quite
right.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's been tough. But the whole stress and pressure thing, I think, is. I mean, Sandra's had it worse out of us, right? Because well, I guess you have with Smoking Brains as well. I don't own the company, right? That's a whole other level. But I think I'm generally not a very stressful person anyway, and I think more than anything, it's about perspective, right? It's like, oh yeah, these things are very, very important, but if you take it outside of the bubble you're in, is it that important? It's a sense of perspective, and I think something else in your life, right? It's like well, it's because you're away. You can work 24 hours a day, right? And even that's even more so as a leader or a manager, I think, than kind of because when you're a software engineer, you're in your team, you want to pair program, you're there, you're kind of, it's a very delineated thing. You go to work, you do your thing, the team's there, and then we'll carry on in the morning. Whereas there's always something that you can be doing, and I think you need to learn. To kind of just learn not to do that, because it's like there's a book which I've only just started by Simon Sinek, where he talks about this infinite game, and this is the thing. There's no end to it. It's gonna continue, and I think you need to be able to kind of walk away. It's important, because this like if you're, I think Jose, you said it perfectly. If you're stressed and tired and exhausted, but your job is to make decisions which affect people's lives, well, you're not doing anyone any favors, are you?
Yeah. So for me, like I went through quite a few ups and downs, and One of the things that one technique was Lagavulin. Lagavulin was a good technique that I found. That just
By the way,
joking.
just so we're clear, we are not endorsing that you solve your problems with alcohol.
This video is
This
not sponsored.
fireside
Doesn't
chat
matter
is
the brand.
this fireside chat is sponsored by Lagavulin, right? Your best single malt in the island. So, but no, but like I of course that the accumulation of responsibilities and decision making, it's not easy to cope, and it was accumulating. And I always like, and I know you too as well. We always worked many hours in whatever we did, even before this life, right? So in previous life, we always worked, but it gets even more and more crazy as we take responsibility, because we know that there's no one else to delegate. There's no one else to throw the problem up.
There's no manager to go to.
Exactly. There's no manager that you can say, hey, there is this thing on fire. Thank you very much, because it's Friday, 5 o'clock, and I need to stop now. I have a family, right? So, manager, you deal with the client on Monday morning, right? So, we don't have that. Not that our people do that, by the way, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's difficult for us to let it go, because you know that with you, that's where the problem stops. You are the last one. You are the one that you need to resolve. And you were talking about the solitude of Jose, of leading Jose. I would go beyond. This is something that I've been speaking to Mesh. I think I even mentioned briefly to the two of you in separate conversations. When we are a developer, you are struggling with an API. You go to Stack Overflow, you do a Google, you find the answer. If it's an architectural problem, you just speak to some people that you know. But you normally have a network of people, either closer to you or wider. The kind of problems that we normally deal with, like that managers and leaders in general deal with, they're not problems that you just bump into someone and have a chat about it. Because like, how many people that I know that play similar positions, or even when they have similar positions, their context is so different that not always that exchange is meaningful, right? So this is what I find it very difficult. Though there is tons of literature out there, I find that the solitude that that you mentioned, was that the solitude of leadership. I feel it. I feel that sometimes, for example, before I was in software craftsmanship community, in the Java community, the things that we talked in those communities, I could find a vast amount of people that we could sit down and chat. In certain leadership positions, your pool of people that we can actually have a chat from the same, like equals, in terms of, hey, how do you do this in your company? Or what are you doing for this and that? We don't have many of those people. And this is something sometimes makes me very uncomfortable, you know? So you are always in that trial and error. But like, as we are way over time, I would like just to go back to, again, we've been talking about how difficult it is, the challenges and stuff, but Steve tried to ask the question, would it do that again? What is the positive side? I think that is fine if we extend a bit more and talk about why we would do that again. We know that we would all do that again, probably different, but we would. But so after an hour of talking about the pain of being a leader and all the problems that we have, why would we do that again? So why would you go through this again? Or even worse, why would you continue going in that direction? Because we can all go back.
I can't. I don't have my JetBrains subscription anymore.
Yeah. You need your manager to buy one for you, right?
I think it's hugely satisfying when it goes right. Hugely satisfying when it goes right. I think to be able to. We've also talked a lot about everything's a problem. Not everything's a problem, right? Sometimes we're able to do things and make decisions which are amazing. Some of the things we've done at Codurance to like kind of help people and their skills and their learning and help our clients is incredible. That ability to kind of share in the community and kind of raise the bar and help out with other kind of initiatives and things around, as we've grown and we've now got the capability and the finance to be able to do that. It's just brilliant. But it's also the same as when you're a software engineer. It's the kind of scale of the things that you're able to influence now. As a team member on, you could influence a bit of the code as a team lead, or as a senior, maybe in a team, you could influence the code and the junior developers and bring them along. As a team lead, you could influence that, and that kind of grows all the way up. And I think probably it's that satisfaction from being able to achieve some really quite, impressive in terms of size things.
What about you, Jose?
So there is that. No, I feel like leading is, and then by the way, when I say leading, I mean the leadership aspect, not the authority aspect. Mm-hmm. Although a lot of the times those are kind of like connected. No, but leading is, I would say, the only way to make an impact. Again, recognizing that agency that I was talking about, and you can affect things, right? Mm-hmm. And that gives you that makes you feel empowered. Basically, that's it's mm-hmm. No. If you're talking about empower people, that's not like people, that needs to come from within, and that's from I can change things, I can and the thing. So that's one area. It gives you a completely different perspective on what you can accomplish and so on. Then there's an aspect for me about growing myself. As you expose yourself and take on challenges that kind of like stretch, and pull you in different directions that you were maybe not thinking that you would take on. So that's something that I enjoy a lot. I enjoy the challenges, and I enjoy growing to meet those challenges. Yeah. Which is a good balance that you need to have as well. You need to pick which challenges you use to grow, right? Too far away, that's just chaos. Too short, you may be too comfortable. Yeah. And then there's an aspect around helping grow something, and by this I mean the culture of the organization, the people in the organization, and so on. And there's a sense of satisfaction that at least I derive from seeing other people succeed and helping them succeed. Yeah. So for me, those are three things that definitely, it's like I wouldn't be able to live without. Let's say, like it's something that maybe before I was able to do before gaining this awareness. Let's say, but I wouldn't change for anything, right? Because I really enjoy the process, the learning, the helping others grow, building something, and having an impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, like it was a continuation of challenges, right? As some of you know me, well, you both know me very well. I'm very deliberate in my career choices and progression. I've always been very diligent in how I drive my professional life. And I think that it was a constant push to the next level, but I reached the point where I realized that I could have stayed where I was before Codurance for life. I had a very good job, a very large organization. I had a global position. Like, I just, if I didn't screw up, I would be there for life. I would never need to worry about anything else.
I'll give you 5 years.
You are very generous. You don't know me enough, right? But then I said, because I realized that even when I was writing the book, I always criticized managers and organizations, and I always felt that they didn't do things well. And at some point I said, you know what? So can I do that well? Mm-hmm. And this was also a challenge because, as I said, I didn't need to start a company. I could just carry it on. But I wanted to try. I wanted to see if I could do better. And I realized that not necessarily I can. I mean, I think that certain things we do very well, but a lot of things that I felt that other companies were doing badly or managers were not doing well, I understand because I failed so much. And I felt that I had that naive view that, oh, you know what? They don't know what they're doing. And I know better. And as I try to apply, again, if you do that with 3 people, you start, oh yeah, that was good, that works. And then you start to realize that doesn't work with 10.
Mhm.
And then you change, and it doesn't work with 20, it doesn't work with 50, it doesn't work with 100, doesn't work in 2 countries, doesn't work with 2 languages. So that challenge of always trying to achieve more and do something well is the drive that I still have.
Mhm.
Can I take to the next level? Can I take to the next level? Can I have a bigger impact? And I like the idea also to have a bigger impact, to say, like, you know what, like it fills me with pride when I see people that I never met before in countries that I've never been to, talking about things that we do in our company.
Mhm.
So this fills me with pride. I say, wow, you know what? This is worth doing. You know, like we do a lot of things that are not great. We are making a lot of mistakes. Not everyone is happy. But overall, I'm proud of what we are building, and this keeps me motivated to do more and keep pushing myself and push what we are doing. So that's why I would do. Yes, it's painful, it's stressful, but the rewards, when you look back, for example, maybe you Stephen, Jose, you've seen us at the beginning, although we were not working with us at the very beginning. You saw us in the beginning.
Yeah.
From where we were to what we achieved. You should be proud of, you know.
Mm-hmm. I remember when we moved offices, and we were like, we'll never fill this place. We'll never. And you know, you were mashed on the floor trying to wire the router in, and just sitting there going, "Look at this! This is incredible." And you know, we couldn't fit a fifth of the company in that room now, even if we all stood up, right? And so, like, what's next? That kind of drives me as well. It's like I've seen this incredible transition from a 4-person office when I joined, to what it is now. You know, hundreds of people, you know, or over 100 people in 3 different locations, plus a load of remote workers. You know, tons of clients, and it's like, wow, well, right, it's been 8 years. That's all, only 8 years. Like, it's gonna be like in another 5, another 8, and 10 years. It's so that I think is another driver. Is just, and that's not really about leadership and management. Is that's just the kind of I guess it's the kind of entrepreneurial bits, which I guess it comes under that leadership. It's like, wow, that curiosity is.
Yes. And no, Jose, you want to say something before?
No. I'm just conscious of time. This is our longest. I think by now is our longest running.
It's the second. No, I think that we had one that was a bit longer.
Okay.
I don't remember which one, but yes.
But it's okay.
Go for the record.
Yeah.
We're about to.
Yeah. No, that's good. So we could wrap up, but yeah. So any final words from going from an expert engineer to a terrible manager?
I think that as an engineer, I had no appreciation that my boss above me, probably a year beforehand, had been doing my job and didn't have a clue what he was doing. I had no idea what he's doing in his new job, and I think that was a massive eye opener for me. But you know, it's stressful. It's hard every day, but the kind of the rewards are amazing.
What's that?
Try it. That's all I can say. Try it. If you like it, if you just don't get disheartened if you screw up at the beginning. That's part of learning, and keep improving, and work on it. It is a skill. Yeah, it is something that you can acquire and you can build. People are not born natural leaders. No, to some extent they develop those skills. So try it. I very much recommend it.
Yeah, so for me, similar. There are many times I want to tell people, like I see them complain about their companies. Oh, the company's this, the company's that, and I always want to go and say, you know what, start your own, or volunteer to take those positions. If you don't want to start from scratch, volunteer to take a leadership position, work, and then see if you can solve those problems, because that gave me, as you were saying, Steve, a very different appreciation for other works that before I had a very naive view, and I criticized because I could only see their shortcomings according to my needs, but I had no idea of the kind of stuff that they had to deal with. And so I have a much better appreciation, and I also feel that it made me a much more complete professional as well. I have like far more, I look at the world in far more perspectives now than I used to look before. So from that perspective is also quite good. But yeah.
Okay, so time to wrap up. If you like what you heard so far, if you managed to get this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification icon so you can get notifications when we release a new video. We do this every week. I think we had a little bit of a break, but after that, we're coming back strong. And if you have any topics that you want us to discuss or expand on, leave a comment, and we look at the comments and we reply. So happy to do that. See you next time. Yeah, and thanks, Steve, for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
All right, see
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.